MMA fans, as fighters face off at UFC 278, you can also take down your own big victory with DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of UFC. This Saturday, new customers can bet $5 on any fighter to win and get $200 in free bets instantly. Want even more action? Combine multiple bets from the same fight, like which fighter will win, how long the fight will last, and more in the same game parlay. With same game parlays, DraftKings customers have a shot at making their bag even bigger if all the bets hit. DraftKings is safe, it's secure, and guys, it's reliable. Best of all, you can deposit and withdraw your money whenever you want. Download the DraftKings app right now. Use promo code Sonnen, bet $5 on any UFC 278 fighter to win, and get $200 in free bets instantly, no matter what. That's code Sonnen this Saturday at DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of UFC. Heavyweight, what's going on? So, it's a guess, guys. I haven't seen a division like this in a period of time, and it's disappointing and it's frustrating. However, it's also a little bit acceptable because the top of the division is hurt. I mean, it's very relevant. It's very relevant. We can't give Francis a hard time. He's injured. He has the right as a human being. Not as champion, not as a member of the organization, not as a face. As a human being, we got to get better. If you set that aside, we're in a really unique spot. Now, Coach Gibson came out, a very sought-after striking coach, the coach of Jon Jones, as well as a who's who of many other. But Gibson was doing an interview, and he just talked about Jon at heavyweight being the most dynamic heavyweight, most creative heavyweight ever. Coach Gibson has coached 2 UFC champions at heavyweight, just so you understand, and he's saying Jon. Now, I don't know that that's what would surprise us, considering Jon was the most creative and dynamic light heavyweight ever, going up into a more unathletic and less dynamic class. I think that we would expect that. But is Coach Gibson doing interviews a hint or a clue to us that something is imminent? And there's a lot to balance there. And I can't help but to go back to a statement that Michael Bisping made 6 weeks ago, where Bisping said, don't do Jones-Stipe. Wait. Wait until you get this Francis thing resolved. If you get him back, put him in there with Jones right away. If he's not coming back, do the Stipe-Jones thing, make it undisputed. But wait, what's the rush? It was a very strange comment at the time Bisping made it. It was even controversial. It was even somewhat ignored. It's looking better and better with time. And it's a unique spot that we're finding ourselves in, guys. You want to put Francis versus Jones together. I believe you have just made the biggest match that our sport could make. If you had full control and no promotions and organizations and just any way you wanted to do it and you could make a fight, I believe you have just found the absolute greatest and biggest and most sought after and most compelling match. I do believe that. But I could argue the other side of the coin. You would be represented by a guy who doesn't want to do this, taking on a guy who stopped doing this. They don't have a win between them in a massive period of time. Now, of course, you could fill in the blanks. Well, Francis hasn't lost. Francis was injured. I get that. You're still talking about a guy that hasn't been in there for a year versus a guy who hasn't been in there for 3. And are we right as the audience to assume that this waiting game has to do with that? Because we haven't got one right at heavyweight yet. I came and told you guys it's going to be Jones versus Stipe. Jones has told us that, and so has Stipe, and so has everybody else within the media, which is why I was very confident in parroting and repeating it. We were wrong. Are we still? There was a rumor this week that that fight is almost done, that it's going to be signed, it's going to take place in December. So it could be any second now that this drops and it's going to be Jones versus Stipe. But if you're going to do that fight, you're going to do it in December, which happens to be the same month that we're going to get some kind of resolution to the Francis debacle. Should we just defer back to what the count was talking about And wait, you have to have a willingness to be part of this sport. To be part of any sport, you have to have a willingness. Who the best quarterback is really doesn't matter if Brady says I'm not playing anymore. Who the best basketball player is really doesn't matter. Like, you don't get to say it's LeBron if LeBron comes out and says I'm not playing anymore. We don't then, well, you know, we're going to give somebody an MVP, but of course who we give it to, we would give it to LeBron. Like, it's just not the way we do things. So willingness has to be a very big part of it. There appears to be a lack of willingness at heavyweight for whatever reason you want to do it. Stipe has been absolutely silent, so we don't know. And we like Stipe, so we give him a pass, right? I admit that. But the phenomenon in the comment that I'm about to make is also true, which is he's removed himself. Francis, we're aware of the knee injury. We think that it's doing well. We know about the contract dispute. There's something going on with Tyson. He's removed himself for whatever reason. That statement is still accurate. Then you have Jon, who walked away from a belt, who says he's coming back. I believe him. I do trust him. He's not demanding it. He's not clear on when. I don't think he's hiding something from us. I don't think he knows. So you have three guys now at the absolute top, the only three guys that we discuss for championships, whether it's interim or whether it's undisputed. Those are the only three guys that we discuss, but they're not willing to do it. I don't believe when I watched the Olympics 2021 out of Tokyo, I don't believe I saw anybody in the pool that Phelps couldn't jump in and beat. Now, I can't prove that, but that's my own belief. That's not part of the conversation. That's not part of the narrative. That would be rude to bring up and take away from the guys that did show up. So willingness is, of course, a piece of this. Now, if you have three guys that for whatever reason aren't doing something, one of them's odd man out, two of them are going to go do it. Is that a way that you can sustain? Is that something that you want to put millions of dollars in marketing behind? I mean, is it truly something that you even want to do? Because one of them's going to come out standing, and he wasn't easy to work with to start with. Once you have those two guys and they go compete, the third man, the guy that got left out, is he willing to step in? As a matter of fact, once I isolate and define who the two I'm going to put in the ring, will the third guy come in and do a backup? Like, is there anything, no matter how light I make this or how much I sweeten the pot, is there any scenario that I can count on any one of you? And I don't mean to do something selfish. I don't mean to do something that you want. Can I count on you to operate within my organization, of which has dates that are booked, has titles that I plan to contest on this specific date? Can I count on any one of you? And when the answer here is very clearly no, great, you get on with it. LeBron has announced his retirement. Brady has announced he's not coming back. You get on with it. I can't get on with it when the rest of the guys that I have are happy to play along with the story that we should all wait for you three. Ciryl Gane versus Tai Tuivasa is going to be a very big fight. Where they're doing it, and that crowd's going to go crazy for Ciryl. And Tuivasa is the most popular heavyweight amongst the most, he might be number one right now. He is amongst the most popular ever. I have been in the arena live, guys, when Tuivasa walks out on two separate occasions. I've never seen anything like it. He flipped a crowd in Houston against their own guy. They booed him on his way out as he's exiting to head back to the locker room. They've got their shoe off, drinking beer out of it. I mean, it was a Rocky moment, truly, where Rocky flips the Russians, and you could only do that on TV with a script. Tuivasa did it right in front of me. He didn't get credit for it, but he did it. If you announce that that's for an interim championship, fine. But how do you announce it's for an interim championship when neither guy has called for it? How do you say Curtis Blades is the guy when Curtis isn't demanding, when they're all standing aside? You got a guy who's not willing to do it against a guy who stopped doing it. That's what you have. You've got to be able to use that. I understand the overarching. I understand that's the biggest fight you could possibly make. We're all going to have to live with it. I understand that, but that's not my job to lessen it. That's your job. That's your prerogative. You're the one in the division. You're the one with the dream. You're the one working hard. Go find you a couple of partners. You can call them opponents. But if you're teaming up to go against the same thing, which right now is an ideology that Stipe, Jones, and Francis are controlling things. If they're not going to give you an opportunity now, what are they going to do 3 months? Why would it change? You're going to put a belt around one of them? You're going to put an opportunity and put $10 more million in their butt? Do people get easier to work with as they get richer? I mean, what is the thing? What are we doing? And why are we doing it? We're forced into this position because the other heavyweights haven't stepped up. They haven't stepped forward. There's demands and claims that they could and should be making, whether they get them or not. That's tomorrow's problem. They're not even making it. They've all stood back for a guy that doesn't want to do it to take on a guy who quit doing it. And how long are we going to play this, by the way? I mean, even in your scenario, which appears to be the one I'm going to have to adjust to, let's do it your way. How long do I have to do it your way? If Jones and Francis fight, can we now stop? Can we now get our competitive juices back? Can we all get flipped back onto a green light and come after them? No, because now we got to do Stipe. Okay, great. If Stipe fights one of them, I mean, how many times are we going to rematch and double rematch, and how are we going to go to the trilogy? When is it going to stop being those three guys? Because I don't get to make those rules, but neither does Dana White. The audience does. The audience is going to be dictated to by the principal, which is the athlete who hasn't even started. Telling those stories and getting those agendas, guys, that's a long-term play. You start with the idea then gets laughed at. You say you're going to do something, they tell you you're not going to do it. I mean, this is how it begins. We haven't even gotten there. We haven't even got the jumping off point. You have a pool of heavyweights who are nothing short but scared. Truly. Truly. They're not coming after Francis, not because they like what's going on. They're scared of Francis. They're not going after Jon, not because they like what's going on. They're scared of Jon. They have a respect for Stipe. It's a little bit different. They don't want to get in these guys' wheelhouse. And the only one with courage, the only one that comes out and does this stuff is Curtis, but he doesn't do enough of it, and he hasn't won you guys over yet. It's a very peculiar spot that we're at with heavyweight. Jones threatened to leave, to which the organization has to, no matter how rude it is, they must remind him, with or without you, we're going to be okay. So that time has come. That proof was made. But you haven't changed Jon. Jon comes back. He's still going to wield. He's still going to use that. He's still going to not. Same thing goes with Francis. Even if he comes back, he's still going to be looking at Tyson. He's still going to be looking at something else. It's one of those things. Whatever's going on with Stipe, and I would trust that either he's hurt, an illness of... I would trust, but I don't have any evidence of that. He hasn't said anything. Either way, I'm left with my perennial division. There's three guys at the top of it. Got one thing in common, which is they don't like to compete very often. That's what I'm left with. I'm now going to empower one of them even more. And that's what's going to happen. Everybody plays the cards that they're dealt. If any heavyweight stepped forward, if any heavyweight said, I'm the king, if any heavyweight started doing these things, the fans will flock to them. Perception is reality, not wins and losses, not what your record is. None of those things, just perception. Give me a perception that you're a hero. Give me a perception that you're a star. Give me the perception that you're the right guy. Will then help to make it true.